Today I'm in the Arizona State Capitol, and I was invited by Representative Mark Finchem.
Yes, sir.
Representative Finchem, you represent Arizona District 11.
Yeah.
That's parts of where?
So northern Pima County, southern Pinell County, from Saddlebrook and Marana Air Park all the way up along the southeast side of I-10 over to Casa Grande, then on up to Stanfield, Maricopa, and ends in the Maricopa City area. Big district.
Big district.
Yeah.
And I reached out to your office just to have a conversation with you about this epidemic, opioid, fentanyl epidemic that we're experiencing here in Arizona, here in Phoenix locally. But I wanted to get your take on, what are you seeing in your district? What are you hearing from law enforcement? What are you seeing from the legislative aspect of it here with your peers?
Yeah, we have a serious problem. We've got a porous border. No matter what the Biden administration says, or MIA, Kamala Harris, or Mayorkas, the supposed border czar, I think is what the title is. They're lying to the American people. We've got drugs pouring across our border. We have people pouring across our border. We've got individuals. I mean, we just had a Border Patrol agent, for example, in Tucson, died of COVID. Now, the question that is on my mind, was that young man exposed to a disease because of people who were not quarantined? Because we have a flawed policy? So for the open borders crowd, what you're doing is you're importing disease. You're permitting a poison, fentanyl specifically, to just flow into our country. Because the tactic right now is for the transnational narco terrorists, I'll call them, because that's what they are, to send up a group of human beings that tie up the Border Patrol and law enforcement officers in processing. Once you apprehend somebody, you got to process them. And while they're in the midst of processing, the dope runners just slide on by, and they get on I-19. Pima County's done virtually nothing, which is shameful. Sheriff Chris Nanos should be ashamed of himself. He's not doing anything about this. But then we've got heroes like Leon Wilmot, Sheriff Wilmot, and Sheriff Mark Daniels. They're aggressively patrolling their borders and working with Border Patrol at every opportunity they get. But with the policy, it seems to they seem to have this willful neglect of facts. We're trying to stop drugs coming across the border, and they conflate that with stopping people coming across the border. Folks that are looking for asylum or whatever. Here's coming from the law enforcement community myself. Before I retired, you got a backpack of dope, you are killing people. That is a time bomb that is going to be imported into our country, and you are going to see people die because of fentanyl and some of the other dangerous substances that they're bringing in. Forget the war on drugs. I mean, this is an open faucet for poison coming into our country. Now, do we have the resources? The state of Arizona's got billions of dollars. Why aren't we spending that money? Why aren't we putting that money on, for example, proof of concept programs where we have real-time video overwatch, where we can identify people, we can track them, we can tag them, we can, instead of chasing them through the pucker brush, we can wait until they come out, we can apprehend them, we can take their dope, we can shut down drug trade. But instead, we're locked into this old paradigm of, we have to have stationary resources, and we've got to have the national. Everybody says the National Guard. Okay, enough of the National Guard already. You can't rely on what's intended to be a short-term response for a long-term problem. We have gotten ourselves into a hole, in my view, and this is a policy matter. We've gotten ourselves into a hole because we've committed resources that really are not getting at the problem. They're kind of nibbling around the edges of the problem. So what am I hearing? You got the resources. Why aren't you doing something about it? Well, okay, we're the policy guys. We've already done something about it. Now it's up to the executive branch, and the county prosecutors, the attorney general, and I think Mr. Brnovich is committed to enforcing the law when it comes to drug trafficking. You've got the governor's office. We've got some resources that have been deployed, but the question we're asking as policy people is, are they effective? Have they been effective? Could we be doing something that's more effective? And that's, quite frankly, that's the job, I think, of a legislator, is to examine those policies that we put into place, how they performed, and whether or not we need to make adjustments and refashion that policy to see to it that we truly are protecting the general welfare.
So it sounds like there are resources, there's money there set aside, but is it politics that's playing into not utilizing all resources and money to make this effective and really put a clamp down on this? If it's a porous border, how do we seal it, right? How to keep the drugs out, right? Somebody seeking asylum, that's a whole different issue.
Exactly.
Somebody who wants to work, great. Let's vet them. Yeah. Let's see who they are, and let's give them a job.
I've been a fan of work visas for a long time.
Let's do that.
I think that the state of Arizona should have the right to issue a work visa.
That makes
it's
sense.
A local visa.
Right.
You got people who are on the other side of the border who want to come over here and work. They don't want to be a part of our money system. They don't want to be a part of our social welfare system. They want to get paid a fair wage for a day's work and go home. They don't want to live in the United States. They like where they live. Why are we not facilitating that? We're not. When it comes to some of the policy things that we've done, I think that there is a certain amount of politics. And when there's politics, there's always this question of courage. You can pick the courageous people out, because those are the ones that the left is going after. Those are the people. I've been a victim of that. I shouldn't say I've been a victim. I've been a target. I refuse to be a victim. I'm going to be a victor. But you make yourself a target when you show courage. So when you dare to ask questions and you call shots as they are, to say that the Secretary Mayorkas is lying to the American people. I watched him on television tell Senator Ron Johnson, our border's secure. Outright lie. So tell me, I thought lying to Congress was a crime. You want to see the video? I can show you the video. The truth is, the cartels have operational security of our border, not the United States. And as hard as the Border Patrol would try, as hard as the sheriffs would try, they are undermanned, under-resourced, and they do not have the political support by many people who should be supporting them. So it's a political football. Why, I don't really understand, because you go around Arizona, fully 2/3 of the people in Arizona believe that border security is one of the top two issues. The other is election integrity. I mean, those are the top two issues. Number 3 I would add is tyranny, with the whole jab mandate and mask mandate and this mandate and that mandate. They're sick of it. Sick of it. And when politics doesn't serve the people, it makes for a really bad policy.
It seems like almost toxic partisanship, right? There's no productivity. Nobody's meeting halfway, making deals, shaking hands. Because in the meantime, while that's happening here in the legislature, state capitol, there's young people out there in the streets that are overdosing, right? They're passing away at a young age.
So how do you meet halfway on that? I'd be interested in knowing, how do you mean? I'm a zero tolerance guy. You want to peddle poison to our people? You either belong in prison or death row. Because you're the one who imposed the death penalty on somebody who wasn't bright enough to not take what you provided. There are some countries where furnishing deadly dope, that's the death penalty. Now, in America, probably never fly. Would I support it? I don't know. That's a discussion for another day. What bothers me is when people say, well, we can't meet in the middle. It's hyper-partisan. Okay, since when has life and death become a partisan issue? We should all be on the same side. We need to stop the flow of deadly fentanyl into this country. And in order to do that, you're going to have to offend somebody's sensibilities about people coming across the border illegally because they're carrying dope. Now, if they're not carrying dope, that's a little different story. Why are you here? Now, if we come to find out that they've got a line of dope, stuck in their pants and around their waist and in their bowels, shouldn't have done that. Because now you're going to go to prison. You are importing poison into our country. So this isn't a war on drugs. This is a war on poison.
Absolutely, and it's out there. It's here in Phoenix. As you know, Phoenix is a distribution hub for the rest of the country, right?
Yeah.
What comes here, it will eventually make its way to the rest of the country. So right now, one of those pills is about $5, right? If you buy it in bulk, it goes down to $2. Okay, so, but when it trickles down to, I just interviewed somebody today from Minnesota. She's here on vacation. She smokes these pills. She started in Minnesota. I said, how much are they? Well, in Minnesota, they're about $10, $20, $30, right? So the price keeps increasing, right? So it's a money-making thing. And so here's an example of this poison that's coming through Arizona from our southern border and just making its way east, right? Not only taking out kids, young people here in Arizona, but killing other people. Because 4 weeks ago, I was in Albuquerque. It's there big time. I was in Tucson 2 weeks ago. It's there big time. So if you could make things happen, if you had that wand, what do you think the solution would be to address this issue?
I'm an all of the above solutions guy. I think that if you get the right resources in the right role and get everybody working together, that ends up being a real solution. So, for example, you have the sheriff's office, which enforces state crimes. You have the border patrol, which enforces federal crimes. You have ICE. Now, I know that there are some folks that don't like ICE, but I would caution people, stop and ask yourself, what is it you don't like about ICE? Is it the talking points that come from AOC that has no idea where the border is? That girl's never been on the border. Or if she has, she probably got there by accident. She knows nothing about the life down here. She lives her cushy life in New York and complains about it. What about the people who are having their lives affected down here? So having the right resources, I think that there is something for us to really consider, and that is, how do we find the most cost-effective resources for the money that we have? Meaning, money is a resource. But when you talk about human resources, people with skills, you talk about, for example, drone operators. It takes a long time to become a skilled drone operator. And I'm not talking about the Predator class drones. I'm talking about other drones. It takes a while to spin up somebody into a law enforcement role. Okay, but are there other human resources that we could be using that are not law enforcement for non-law enforcement roles? And a lot of that has to do with supporting a law enforcement officer. Doing a traffic stop and taking somebody into custody and turning them over to the jail, those are all law enforcement functions. But once you've got them to jail, it's a different class of enforcement, because now it's around custody. It's no longer about apprehension. Now, there are a number of laws that are in place to see to it that sworn personnel do certain jobs. We are asking the question, okay, so how do we make it so that law enforcement officers in the field have the best intelligence available to them possible? Can we get them real-time video of where the bad guys are coming across? What vehicles they got into? Can we track them? We see high-speed pursuits. Well, with the availability of drones and Overwatch, I guess the question now becomes, is there any reason for a high-speed pursuit? We can follow that vehicle to wherever they get out. We know where they went into. We're able to tag the vehicle, tag the people. In some cases, even identify the people. So it sounds very Terminator Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator type, that you've got drones all over the place and identifying people. Maybe Minority Report would be another one. But I mean, some of those movies were somewhat prophetic. But I guess my point is, we've got technology that can fill a gap, and we've got individuals who are maybe former law enforcement, former military, that have skill sets that are unique to support a support role for law enforcement officers. We expect the LEO, law enforcement officer, to do everything and be everything to everybody. At the very same time, we see people exiting that profession because it's been vilified. I was proud to serve for 21 years as an officer in West Michigan. Today, I do not envy the job that those young men and women have to do, because they've been turned into the enemy. But that's what a color revolution does. You've got people that want this country to sink into chaos, and that's because they have a different agenda than those of us who seek a civil society. So for those people that might be watching your show, I would urge you, reject the people, reject them out of hand. If they advocate the doing away with law enforcement, defund the police, you got to be kidding me. They did a poll in Minneapolis, Minnesota. In fact, I think they just had an election up there on a defund the police referendum. It got squashed, something terrible. Well, something good, actually. The people said, look, we love the police. It's the criminals that don't want the police. It's the people who want to serve a different agenda, who want to break down society, not build up society. Now, did what happened to George Floyd and that whole event, was that wrong? Absolutely, it was wrong. But since when do we vilify an entire population of people because of the acts of one or two people? I remember a day when the Democrat Party would have rejected that out of hand, but today they embrace it. I don't understand that. Do you not want a civil society? Do you not want people to be productive? But instead, you're on this defund the police crap. That's not a civil society.
The scary part is that you mentioned it, law enforcement here in Arizona, and probably across the nation, they're retiring record numbers, right? Nobody's applying. Nobody's applying. They're leaving early. They're seeking other occupations, other industries, other jobs because
can't fill jobs.
No appreciation. They got our target behind their back, low pay, and they're like, I'm out of here. If I'm the enemy, if I'm the bad guy, then I'm gonna give up this badge, and that's scary.
I would say that we are not far. If we're not already into it, we are not far away from a crisis in civil policing. The job is no longer what it was when I was in that job, when I was in that role. There was a day when, you get in a fight once in a while, but it was a hand fight. Every once in a while somebody pulled a knife or a gun, but not very often. Now, lethal force is the first choice, and not by the police. It's by the people who have gotten to the point where they know, I truly believe they feel that they no longer have anything to lose, because they're so distraught, they're so downtrodden upon. What's the penalty? Death? And that breaks my heart. I love my constituents, and I love the people of this state, but we can't have an uncivil society. Because when we have that, the things that people have enjoyed for so long, they will evaporate like that.
That's a great point. Representative Finchem, I'm going to say thank you very much
My
for
pleasure.
inviting me, for talking to me. I wanted to pick your brain, talk to you for a little bit. You're aware of what's going on. It's good to hear your perspective, from your legislative standpoint. And hopefully together, the more conversations we have, working together in the community, we'll be able to take care of this, together as a team.
Right.
Because that's what it's going to take, right? If we just wait for the politicians to save us, not going to happen, right?
That's right.
If we just wait for this over here, this group over here to save us, not going to happen. Together, working together, is how we'll be able to put a dent in it, right?
And I think that, if the several states in the lower 48 really want to see an end to drug trafficking, us here in Arizona and Texas and New Mexico, if they'll accept the help, we need to have help. We need to have financial resources sent so that we can beef up our boots on the ground, our drone overwatch, our capacity for handling the people who need to be prosecuted, convicted, have their dope and their money stolen, and then send them back to their country of origin. The only thing that we can do at this point is, it's a bit like squeezing a tube of toothpaste. You know, if we apply pressure here in say, Yuma County, they're just going to jump over to Cochise County, and then, you know, you apply a little pressure in Cochise County, they'll go to Pima County. It's just this game of back and forth. We need to shut that trade down and communicate the message to the young people of this country. You're taking a poison. You really are. You're going to kill yourself. It's just a matter of time.
It's a great message. So thank you very much, Representative Finchem.
My pleasure.
We'll talk again, okay?
Very
Thank
good.
you.
You bet.